Please be seated. The court is now in session. During our last Thursday proceeding, the floor was given to the lead co-lawyers for civil parties, and at that time the national lawyer for civil parties already concluded his questioning. The floor is now given to the international lawyer for civil parties. The defense counsel, you need to first mention the subject matter of what you intend to speak, and please try not to interrupt the proceeding and the time allocation for each party. So first, please mention the subject matter that you wish to proceed before the chamber may give you the floor. And the chamber has noted that you sometimes do not comply with the instructions and the rules in force in this chamber.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good morning, everyone. I hope everyone had a pleasant weekend. I'll be very brief. I have 2 points for this morning. My first point is very, very briefly, just to quickly rehabilitate the record, and I'm quoting now. This is an oral application that I've made. I think in fairness we need to hear from my colleagues on this side of the stage, from the prosecution, and that you'll need to make an oral ruling. Now I see you're all getting up and walking out of here, but you're judges and you need to be able to deal with this matter when it comes up in court. Walking away doesn't solve the problem. So that, of course, was what I said on Wednesday, which was stricken.
The chamber will not allow you to proceed with that. Do you have any other subject matter to raise?
Thank you, Mr. President. I do. As I said, I have 2 brief points. That was my first point. My second point is a request for clarification. And very briefly, it concerns something Judge Cartwright said on Wednesday, and again I'm quoting, as an addendum, because clearly you don't fully understand the procedures under which we're working here, the applicable legal framework that this court operates under does not provide for striking out as a remedy. So that is not an application that can be seriously considered by the chamber. So that's Judge Cartwright on the record. The applicable legal framework does not provide for striking out as a remedy. So the point I'd like to have clarified is the following. Shortly after, I should say not shortly, 2 days after Judge Cartwright spoke those words on the record, she signed what has been styled an order to strike words from the record. So I'm very confused. So that what I'd like to have clarified is Judge Cartwright has clearly said that striking out is not a possibility, and then the chamber, under her signature, I believe, went ahead and struck something out from the record. So if I may just refer to something Judge Hunt of the ICTY once said in relation to the use of judicial language, and that was in the Milosevic case. And he himself was referring to something that had been said before by an English judge, Lord Acton, and I'm quoting, "I know of only one authority which might justify the suggested method of construction. When I use a word," Humpty Dumpty said in a rather scornful tone, "it means just what I choose it to mean, neither more, neither less." The The question is, said Alice, whether you can make words mean so many different things. The question is, said Humpty Dumpty, which is to be master? That is all. And that, of course, is from Lewis Carroll's Through the Looking Glass. So
that is enough, counsel. You are not allowed to speak on this matter. The floor is now given to the lead co-lawyers for civil parties. You may proceed. You are not allowed to speak on this matter again. It is already on the record and in the transcript that I, as the president of this chamber, do not allow you to speak on this matter again. The floor is now given to the lead co-lawyers for civil parties to question this witness. Back on. Good morning, Mr. President, Your Honors, parties, venerable monks, and everyone in and around the courtroom. In fact, Mr. President, I have not yet concluded my questioning of this witness. Last time, we, the lead co-lawyers for civil parties, spent 20 minutes on this witness, and we still have 1 hour time allocation. With your permission, I wish to proceed. Good morning, Mr. Witness. Ms. Vern. I have some more questions to put to you. On Thursday, you said Ta Mok provided you with some trainings. Can you tell the court when did he teach you and what were the subject matters that he taught you? A response. Ta Mok had taught me since I was in the forest. However, at that time, the topics were different from the times that I learned from him during the time that we attacked. While we were in the forest, he taught us about the status of the country, that our country lacked independence and we were under the French colonialism economically. And during the fight in the battlefields, he taught us the military techniques and how to defeat the enemy, and the strategies to take control or seize the villages, the barracks, or along the road, or to destroy bridges. And after the victory, he taught us about how to defend and construct the country. That on one hand we fight the enemy, and on the other hand we defend the country. That were the topics that he taught. Thank you. I am interested in one point in regard to the destruction of the bridges. The question is why it is necessary to destroy bridges during the wartime. Response. In attacking the enemy or in destroying the bridges or the roads, because they were the main transportation way of the enemy. In order to defeat the enemy, we have to cut off their blood vessel. Question. Did he also teach you what to do to the civilians? Response. In attacking the enemy, we must not mistreat any civilians, and in reality, when the soldiers were captured in 1970, they would be taken to the barrack and then to the rear. And if any of the family members of the soldiers died during the war, then they would be taken to the back, and then the religious ceremonies would be held, and money would be provided to the family. Thank you. Question. Regarding the value of such instruction or the order from the upper level, whether it was an instruction or policy, when you were with the military, were all those orders or instructions implemented fully, or whether the military or soldiers at the lower level had the option not to implement it? A response. The plans assigned to the subordinates from the military battlefield headquarters, for instance, if a location has to be attacked and seized, then there has to be done. We must not withdraw ourselves unless there was a further instruction for such withdrawal. Otherwise, we had to attack and seize control of such a location. Question. Was there any case where an order was implemented, but due to its nature, then the soldiers withdrew themselves? Response. In implementing the orders, and if we could not do it, and it happened in certain places, as the enemy forces were overwhelming and we were attacked and we withdrew themselves. If that is the case, and in reality, of course, we withdrew ourselves. Now I move to the time period between 1975 to 1979. Can you tell us, in regards to the orders from the upper echelon to the military subordinates, that is to you, were those instructions, or had those instructions be implemented absolutely and fully? Response. After 1975 and up to 1979, the orders to us were to defend the borders, and at my target we did not have a serious clash with the neighboring countries. And secondly, we had to be self-sustained, which meant on one hand we had to engage in the defense, on the other hand we had to engage ourselves in rice production. But we did not achieve that much because the water at the coastal area was salty water, so we did not get much rice production. Question. You said that in your duty to defend the borders, were there orders as to what to do with those people who fled to Thailand or the illegal fishermen? If there were orders for the arrest of those people, must those orders be implemented fully? Response. During the time that I stayed there, actually people had been moved to the rear, and it was extremely difficult for people to flee as they had to cross canals, creeks and forest. So it was virtually impossible for them to cross. As for the illegal fishermen from the neighboring countries, if they encroach in the maritime border, I mean deep inside our maritime border, we had to capture them. If they fled and we could not capture them, then that would be it. But in certain cases, we captured some of those illegal fishermen in our maritime border. Thank you. Now I move to another topic, that is the attack on Phnom Penh. Can you tell us about the soldiers under your command who attacked Phnom Penh? How many days did it take before the entire Phnom Penh city was defeated? I mean, from the commencement of the attack until the victory on the 17th April. Response. During the commencement of the attack on Phnom Penh, I received my orders from the division 5 days prior. So the order was that we had to engage in 5 days attack only on Phnom Penh, and the victory must be won on the 18th April. But in reality, we liberated Phnom Penh 1 day earlier, that is on the 17th April 1975. Thank you. My next question is the following. Those soldiers who attacked Phnom Penh, were they divisional soldiers or were they soldiers from zones? And when they arrived in Phnom Penh, were Phnom Penh controlled by various divisions or were they controlled by those soldiers from zones? Response. As far as I knew, Phnom Penh was controlled by the divisions. For example, the east would control the east, or the southwest would control the southwest, or the north would control the north. Question. On Phnom Penh maps, did they clearly clarify which part shall be controlled by the north or which part shall be controlled by the southwest or the east? Response. They actually made that distinction during the attack, but after the liberation, there was no such division of the controlled areas. Question. Last week, you mentioned one point of my interest, that your troops from the southwest controlled the area around Buraikila through the west. Did any other soldiers from other zones also divided their control as parts of the cities? Can you tell us which parts of the cities controlled by which zones? Response. I knew only about the southwest soldiers and where we controlled, but I did not move around, so I could not know which parts of countries were controlled by which zones, but I believed it was the same thing. Question. Thank you. Now I'd like to ask you in relation to the Lunar soldiers, from your eyes witness during the attack on Lunar soldiers, that is during those 5-day attack, were Lunar soldiers in a large number to counter your attack? And while you reached Phnom Penh, did you see a number of Lunar soldiers who surrendered? Response. During the attack on my spearhead, there was no much damages to the Lunar soldiers, that is from Pradatang to Phnom Penh. But while we reached Phnom Penh, there was no longer any shooting. I did not see Lunar soldiers in their barrack. Sometimes I saw some of them on the track, but I did not see any military barrack in Phnom Penh. Question. Based on the real situation back then, was it difficult for your troop to attack Lunar soldiers? Was artillery used? Response. While we attacked and reached Puyentong, we actually used 120 milliliter artillery. But once we were in Phnom Penh, we no longer engaged in the use of artillery. Thank you. My next question is in regards to the movement of Phnom Penh during the attack on Phnom Penh. Last week you stated that during the attack, people or civilians remained in their houses. Can you tell us, were those civilians in their houses in large number? What was their condition, whether they were elderly, children, or the sick people? Response. I reached Phnom Penh, but not much further. And at that time, I saw the civilians flying their white flag at their houses and flats. They were not actually inside their houses. They were gathered around those concrete houses. Some were on the upper floor, some were on the ground floor. They lacked food and medicine, but there were not many incidents. But I also observed that they did not wander around. And actually at that time, the streets were occupied by the Khmer Rouge soldiers. The situation was that they lacked food and medicine.
Question. Can you please clarify whether someone would be ready to help solve the problem of the shortcoming of the medicine or food? Because you say that people didn't have enough food or medicine, but who helped solve these problems? Response. I do not know whether people were starving or how this problem was fixed. But I remember that when we went to a location where the medicine would be stored, people looted the medicines, and some got injured because of the broken glasses, and we told them not to go into that building again because we did not want them to get injured. So people retreated, and I just don't know what happened or whether the problem was solved or not. Counsel. Thank you. You said that people looted the hospital or went into the hospital to get the medicine. So you were there. Can you tell me how many people did you see at the hospital, or did you happen to see any patients still being admitted to that hospital? Response. I did not see any people. It was the drug store, the warehouse where medicine would be stored. I did not see any staff member or medical staff member at all. Question. I have a few more questions. Did you ever meet people dwellers? For example, did you see a lot of children, elderly people, or sick people there when you attacked and liberated Phnom Penh? Response. Yes, I saw a lot of them, but I cannot say exactly how many they were. I saw them in houses, in apartments, buildings. Question. At that time, did you or did your soldiers talk anything or converse with the people to gain their trust? Response. Our soldiers just told them to be calm, to be not worried, and there should be no more firing, and I then retreated. Question. After your troops retreated back to the rear, did you notice what people would be bringing with them when they were leaving the city? And how did they leave the city? Response. We returned to the location near Steng Mien Chai location. For about 3 days, we noted that some people were seen walking on the road. Some were carrying some luggage, and some were pushing the carts, carrying their babies, and some had to push their run out of gas vehicles like cars, and people could bring along with some of their belongings. They could bring their own cars or motorbikes, but when the vehicle ran out of gas, they would be pushing them. Question: did you note or did you look at their faces and to see how they felt when leaving the city? Were they happy, sad? Response: I talked to some people. People told me that they did not want to leave behind their belongings, and I could tell very quickly from seeing their faces that they were not happy, because they did not come with the rice or other food. They could only grab some belongings, just like clothes, but not foods. Question: I thank you very much. I have a few more questions on this particular topic. Did you know whether the people who were leaving Phnom Penh were informed at all that they would be coming back to the city after a few days? Did they know anything about this? Response: I did not remember having heard whether people would be allowed to leave the city and be returned. They just told, when I talked to them about this, they just told me that the city was liberated and that's all, and they had to leave. Question: you knew Mr. Hu Yun in the jungle when you were the soldiers for Tamok after the 17th of April 1975. What happened to Mr. Hu Yun? Please tell the court what you know about him after even 1975, or rather 1979. Response: Mr. Hu Yun and Hu Nam were loved by me, and I love the three people. I treated them as my brothers and fathers. But by 1975, it was the first time I knew something about him, because I did not hear anything about him since 1970. I did not see them or him again even after 1975, but I heard that he had problems. He had some morality problem, like moral misconduct. Question: please tell us about what happened to him, to Hu Yun and Hu Nam. Response: I did not meet both of them. I did not see them even until 1979. Question: have you ever heard anything about Mr. Hu Yun, whether he's still alive or deceased? Response. I heard that he died. He was arrested before he died. Question. Do you still remember what was the problem? What made him or why Mr. Huyen was arrested? Response. I heard that he had some conflict or some problem concerning his opposing opinion with regard to the money circulation. Question. I have a few last points to put to you concerning your time when you were in Preah and you said you went there to see the people and you noted the life condition of the people and you noted the difficulties people encountered in Preah and you even reported this event. I want to know whether you even reported to the Central Committee, and if so, to whom? Response. When I went to Preah, Pol Pot instructed me to go and see the people because a lot of people were arrested and were starving. And when I went there, I saw what happened, and it was true that people did not have enough food to eat. I was there for about 4 months by late 1978. And at that time, I reported on the situation. The report on the people being arrested and detained in Siem Reap. However, due to the time constraints, I did not report to my upper echelon, although I on one occasion reported on the relatives of Khieu Samphan and the people who did not have food to eat and those who were arrested and detained. That was the only part of information in the report that I made on one occasion, and there was no other report because we did not have further communication when the Vietnamese attacked us and telephone communication was cut off. Question. When you reported to your upper echelon, could you please be more precise? To whom did you report to? Response. I reported to Mr. Khieu Samphan. Question. After reporting to Mr. Khieu Samphan, did you know whether there is or there was any kind of solution to the problems you listed in your report? Response. He did not give me any feedback or response. The report was made to him and I did not know whether there was any solution at all. And I told him that about 500 people were detained in a Rovieng location, and they later on were asked to be released, but I have no idea what happened to the people in Preah Vihear. Question. Do you think that, or did you know that the situation remained the same, for example, when it comes to the food shortages? Response. At that time, people did not have food to eat, and it was almost the harvest season. And before I went there, it was not close to the harvest season. But when I was there, indeed, people were harvesting their rice, so they had some rice to eat. And all those people who liked food were collected and gathered and brought back to live in the cooperatives so that they could be fed. And I noted also that the people who on one occasion had to go to the jungle and grew some potato or cassavas had to be returned to the cooperatives. Question. You said that some people were released. However, you said that last week that only the elder brother-in-law of Khieu Samphan was released, not other people. Can you please be more precise to see whether apart from Mr. Khieu Samphan-in-law, were other people also released? Response. When I was at Pravihir, Bong Seung in Siem Reap released the people at Ro Vieng district. Indeed, these 500 people were kept. They were not merely detained. They were kept in a location without any fences or wall, but in solitary confinement. But later on, they were all released. Counsel, I thank you very much, Mr. Witness, for responding to all my questions. May I now cede the floor over to my colleague to put a few more questions. And I thank you very much indeed, Mr. Witness, for your responding to the question. And I thank you, Mr. President, and your honors for this as well.
Yes, good morning, President. Good morning, Your Honors, and good morning to all of you. Good morning, witness. I'm going to put a few questions to you, and I will try to manage the limited time that is given to me as often. Witness, I'm going to limit myself to questions regarding internal security, which was one of the roles of the Army. And before that, I would like to ask you a general question, however. You said that as of 1976, you were nominated Deputy Commander of Division 1 in the West Zone, and you had 2,700 soldiers under your orders. Can you tell me if among these soldiers, they were people who were younger than 18?
Response. It was not a division, it was a brigade, as I was in charge, and my soldiers, the age group, they were all 17 years of age or above.
Thank you. Well, I'm now going to speak to you about the questions of internal security, and the prosecutors questioned you about the arrests of soldiers within the army, and also spoke about the way these soldiers were treated later. But I'd like to question you more about the civilians. when you were the deputy commander of brigade in the West Zone, as a soldier, did you receive orders regarding how to manage and control civilians in order to ensure internal security?
Response. With regard to the internal security, we soldiers at the border were not in charge of civilians. We were fully in charge of the soldiers.
Thank you. Did I understand well when you told me that you received no specific orders to arrest civilians? Is that so?
Response. Yes, it is.
President, with your leave, I would like to quote an excerpt from a written record of interview from one of the civil parties. And it is indexed at D170/1, and it is Civil Party D22/27. And I'd like to specify that this written record is referred to in the footnotes of the closing order, and it is also on the prosecutor's lists as well as on the list of the civil parties. And the ERNs are the following: French 00 48 40 54 16, English 00 33 83 90, and Khmer 00 30 43 34 to 35. May I please read out this excerpt, President?
Je vous remercie. Donc,
thank you. The excerpt is the following. It is the excerpt of a written record of interview of a civil party, and who states the following: one day during the night, I was sleeping with my woman who had been ordered to go dig up spuds in the area. A soldier called Ak came to call me, maybe between 9 and 10 in the evening, telling me to go fix a machine in a rice paddy that night. And I said to myself that maybe it was not to go repair a machine that I was being called, because usually civilians would call me, not soldiers, not the Khmer Rouge soldiers such as he. When I arrived at the rice paddy, I saw soldiers waiting along the road. I knew that I was going to be arrested. And when I stepped into the trailer, I knew that I was going to be arrested for sure, because there were soldiers who were there as well. When I arrived at Comrade Axe, and as soon as I stepped out of the trailer, I was tied up suddenly, and they put me into a shed. And they told me to first rest before they sent me the following day to the detention center. The following morning, I noticed that before Comrade Ak's house, there were all kinds of human organs. That day, I was given solid rice to eat. That evening, I was tied up, and I was escorted from Vielrin to the Kokyong Detention Center, which is located in Sraicham Commune, Prem Nup District, Kampot Province. I was tied up with hammock rope, and I was being drawn like an ox. End of quote. Witness, does this remind you of any kinds of situations you might have heard of from the soldiers?
Response. No, it doesn't.
très bien.
Fine, fine. Witness, given your rank, as far as you know, were orders given by the military hierarchy to the soldiers regarding interrogating people who are arrested by the person I just mentioned, I just quoted?
Response. No, I don't know anything about this.
President, may I read out another excerpt of this same written record of interview? It's a shorter excerpt, and the ERN in French is 0048 54 17. In English, 0033 83 91. And in Khmer, 0030 43 35. May I read this excerpt, President?
The President. You may proceed.
Free translation. Thank you. So I'm going to quote the same civil party who tells what happened to him once he had been arrested in a Kyokyong security center. This morning, I was the fourth person to be brought away for interrogation. Among those who had been interrogated before me, only one single person survived. He was able to come back with his feet shackled. When I was before the door of the interrogation room, I saw that bodies were being dragged out and that they had been beaten until they died. I would like to specify that the first shackles that were used on me were in wood. Then they used steel shackles. Question from the investigating judge. Can you describe the facts when you were being beaten during the interrogation? Reply from the civil party. Sean was the deputy commander of the prison. The leader, whose name I don't remember, and two soldiers were those who interrogated me. At the beginning, they showed the torture instruments to me, such as the steel rod, a wooden stick, and a plastic raincoat. Witness, does this remind you of any comments or any reports that might have been given to you by soldiers?
Response. No, it doesn't. I don't know anything about this.
Monsieur le témoin.
Witness, given your rank at the time, did you receive specific orders regarding prisoners who might have escaped from the security centers or from the prisons?
Response. No one escaped from my location because it was very far from other locations.
Monsieur le Président.
President, may I read an excerpt of the civil party application of D22/1328? And the French ERN is 00850561, Khmer 00525741.
The President, Counsel, could you please slow down when reading the ERN numbers, and please repeat the last ERN numbers because they were not translated or interpreted.
Yes, I apologize. So it is civil party D22/1328, and the French ERN is 00850561, and Khmer 000525741 and 42. May I read out this excerpt?
Yes, you may proceed.
Free translation again. So this is a civil party who was living in the area where you held your military rank, and this civil party states the following. 10 days later, this civil party had escaped, and he's telling what happened. Oh, I'm sorry. Well, the civil party did not escape, corrects the civil party lawyer. 10 days later, soldiers transferred me to the correction center and to the prison where my feet were shackled at night and during the day. I was sent to pick sweet potatoes. Every evening, Khmer Rouge soldiers would bring new people or people who had been accused of treason to execute them. And their bodies were buried next to the prison. During the day, the prison guards ordered the detainees to dig pits at by the mango and coconut trees. I dug 2 pits obeying their orders. End of the first excerpt. Then a little bit further, this civil party states the following. Free translation again. One day during the dry season of 1978, a prisoner called Chong escaped from the prison. 7 days later, he was caught by the Khmer Rouge soldiers. And these Khmer Rouge soldiers brought together the other prisoners and took them to the banana plantation in front of the prison. And then a soldier, whose name I don't remember, said that we shouldn't follow the example of Comrade Chong. And finally, he executed him with a hoe and dumped him into a pit. A month later, 2 other prisoners were caught by the prison guards following an attempt to escape. These Khmer Rouge soldiers brought the prisoners together again and ordered the escapees to dig a pit and to plant a pole, and they crucified them to the pole. Lom, the regiment commander, ordered another prisoner, T and myself, and gave us a knife and asked us to open up their stomach. And since I did not refuse, I disemboweled him. Does this refresh your memory? Does this remind you of any souvenirs that you might have heard of from soldiers who were under your orders?
President, witness, please wait. The National Council for Kyusempon, you may proceed. Thank you, Mr. President. I'll object to this question put by the political lawyer for civil parties. This witness went to Prairie province after August 1978, and the facts mentioned in that record was in the dry season of 1978. However, according to the season in Cambodia, the dry season would be between January up to April. So it happened before this witness went to Prairie Hill. For that reason, he cannot testify to that fact.
May I respond, President, please?
Question.
My question is obviously an example among many others. I am not asking the witness if he knows this specific example. I'm simply asking him if he heard of such examples of prisoners escaping and prisoners being arrested, and if he knew of the fate that awaited these prisoners who tried to escape. This was the simple aim of my question. It's not necessarily in relation to this specific civil party at this specific moment.
President, the objection and its ground is unfounded. A witness, you are instructed to respond to the last question put to you by the political lawyer for civil parties. Response. No, I did not know about that. That area belongs to the secretary of the division, and the distance from that location to my location was very far.
Witness, when you held the rank you held in Kokong, did you receive orders to supervise the mobile units?
There was no mobile units in Kokong. There were no mobile units to dig canal or to build dams. No, they planned to make a 3 ton per hectare rice production. It was purely military force.
Merci.
Thank you. President, may I please read out another excerpt of a written record of interview of a civil party. It is on the list of the prosecutors, and it's indexed D125/86. And I would like to read out an excerpt with the following ERNs: French 00, 24, 30, 25. English 00, 24, 30, 11. Khmer 00, 20, 63, 89. May I read out this excerpt, President?
Yes, you may proceed.
Thank you very much. I'd like to specify that this civil party indexed D22/92 was 20 years of age in 1975, and he was working in a mobile unit in the West Zone. And he states the following, free translation. In general, when I went to work in the fields, I had to participate in meetings in order to produce monthly reports to the regiment and to the commanders of Sector 37. Back then, my workplace was called Sector 37. And since I was ill, I sent my report to them through a young soldier who usually was going to the meetings. A little bit later, this civil party answers to the following question: How were you arrested? Answer: at the beginning of the evening, that is to say around 6 o'clock, the young soldier in question came to tell me that Brother Vun wanted to see me just for a small moment. And then I followed him at the place where I was arrested. The young boy said, "Please wait for me, brothers. I'm going to go look for Brother Vun." Vun was the person in charge of the mobile units of the entire Sector 37. Back then, Vun's position was equivalent to division commander. A little while after the young boy left, two soldiers with AK rifles threatened me and told me to raise my arms and took off the scarf around my waist so that they could tie my two hands behind my back. Witness, does this episode remind you of anything? Did you hear about similar events to the event that I just described?
I never went to the rear, so I could not know about this event.
Monsieur le témoin.
Witness, given your rank in the West Zone and in Kokong in particular, did you sometimes receive orders from the military hierarchy to transfer prisoners from one security center, such as the Kok Nhong Security Center, to cooperatives around Kokong, for these prisoners to work in the cooperatives?
No, I never did.
Monsieur le Président.
President, may I read out another excerpt, and this will be the last. It is an excerpt from a civil party application, and it is civil party D22/772.
Je donne les références.
I will give you the French year and references. French 0085 0348. Khmer 0050 21 23. May I read out this excerpt?
Yes, you may proceed.
Thank you. This excerpt is the following, and this is a civil party who was detained in the West Zone at the security center. And the civil free translation. 2 weeks later, the prison leader, whose name I don't remember, ordered me to go work outside of the prison. For example, to dig earth and to plant sweet potatoes and to raise dikes and to plant rice. In May 1977, the Khmer Rouge soldiers transferred about 100 families, and my family as well, by truck to the Bapronos village, Chompa commune, Kompong Sela district, Kokong province. And when we arrived, the soldiers designated 10 group leaders who had to take care of these hundreds of families. Witness, did you hear about this kind of occurrence? Does this remind you of anything?
No, I did not know about that.
These soldiers who arrested people and who were in charge of prisoners at the security centers and who also managed them when they escaped and who executed them and who transferred them, who would they report to if it was not to you?
My soldiers did not control the security at the rear at all. Because we were constantly at the front, we did not go to the rear.
Witness, I have a last question to put to you. Regarding you specifically. You said to the prosecutors last week that you feared for your own personal security and that you therefore did not challenge the arrests. You said this to the co-prosecutors, and I would like to know, witness, given your rank, which was quite high, what you were afraid of exactly, why you feared for your own personal safety.
I was concerned about my safety because I had to obey the orders from my upper echelon and I never refused to do so.
But what were you afraid of, witness?
I was afraid that I might have been arrested because my in-law was arrested. And as I was at the front all the time, I only paid attention to my work at hand and I did not bother or interfere with the events happening at the rear. So I only did what I was instructed to do.
Alors je vous
So maybe I will put a very last question to you. What happened to the members of your in-laws what happened to your in-laws who were arrested?
My in-law and relatives were arrested, and I was afraid that due to our connection that I would also be arrested. But I myself did not pay much attention to what happened at the rear.
You did not answer my question. I will put it to you again. So what happened to your in-laws?
Who are you referring to? I could not get your question.
I'm speaking about your in-laws who were arrested. What happened to them after their arrest?
My elder-in-law engaged in immoral act, and he was imprisoned and died. But I did not react to that event, as I was only concerned about myself as well.
Thank you, witness, and thank you especially for having answered at least some of my questions, even if they were difficult for you. Thank you.
President, thank you. Judges of the bench, you have any questions to be put to the witness? Judge Lavange, please proceed.
Yes, thank you, President. Good morning, Mr. Meerswoon. I am Judge Lavergne, and I have a few questions to put to you. But before I put these questions to you, I have a document that I would like to distribute, and I believe that it should be given to the witness as well as to the parties. And this is a colored map of Democratic Kampuchea. This map is to give you an idea of what we're speaking about when we speak about zones and sectors or districts. Mr. Meerswoon, you were interrogated at length and you explained that you had joined the revolution when you were very young, and you joined the Patriotic Youth League, and Tamok trained you as well, which we spoke about this morning again. And I would like to return to the issues regarding the military organization structure. I'd like you to explain to me, please, what exactly the situation was before the capture of Phnom Penh, because you were leading a regiment that was part of Division 1. And if I understood well, this Division 1 was belonged to the Southwest Zone, or in any case was under the orders of the secretaries of the Southwest Zone. Mr. Meerswoon, did I do I understand the situation before 1975 correctly? Was Division 1 under the authority of the Southwest Zone?
Yes, what you stated is correct.
And the secretary of the Southwest Zone, was it Tamok? And who were Tamok's deputies? Who were the deputy secretaries?
Previously, Southwest Zone was under Tamok, and then the sea after him. I only knew of these two zone secretaries.
And these zone secretaries, they had deputies, didn't they? They were not alone. Who were the other members of the zone committee?
I cannot recall the names. I only recall Tamok and Tasi. I only knew of these two, and I didn't know about other people's appointments.
What were the other divisions under the authority of the Southwest Zone? How many divisions were under the authority of the Southwest Zone in 1975 before the capture of Phnom Penh?
There was only this one division of the Southwest Zone.
You never heard of a division of Division 2 that might have been under the orders of someone by the name of Sambit?
I heard of the name, but I didn't know which military structure he was in charge.
So what did he hear about regarding Division 2 or about Mr. Sambit?
I heard of the name, but I never saw his face. I did not know whether he was within the zonal structure or within the divisional structure.
Did you hear of a Division 3 and of someone by the name of Meas Mut?
Yes, I did hear the name Mihmut.
And was Division 3 under Division 3 was under whose authority in 1975?
I believed it was under the control of Mahmoud.
And to whom did Mahmoud report? Who was Mahmoud's superior?
I did not know because we rarely had our communication.
And during the capture of Phnom Penh, did you hear of Mr. Mahmoud or of Division 3?
Yes, I heard of Division 3.
And where was Division 3?
I did not know which target Division 3 was assigned to. I only knew my group was at the north, but I could not know the target or the direction of Division 3.
So let's return to Division 1 during the capture of Phnom Penh. Division 1, who led Division 1? Who was the Secretary of Division 1? Who was the Deputy Secretary? Was there a political commissar?
It was Da Seung. He was the sole political commissar. And there was another person whose name I cannot recall. He replaced Da Seung. I cannot recall his name.
And the person heading the division, was he the political commissar or was his rank division secretary? What was his rank called?
There was the division secretary. There was the commander and deputy commander. As for Da Seung, he was in charge. And there was another person, but I cannot recall his name. And below that, there was another deputy by the name of Yon, but that person already passed away. He passed away in 1976.
So what were the commanders and deputy commanders called? Do you remember their names or do you not remember their names?
Da Seung was the commander. Sometimes he was in charge alone by himself. Sometimes another person came to act in his capacity. And some other times he would have a regiment commander acting in his capacity in the battlefield.
Merci.
Thank you. Can you tell me how many regiments there were in Division 1? And what were the names of these regiments?
I refer to a brigade. In a brigade, there were 3 regiments. Regiment 16, Regiment 15, and Regiment 17. And there was another special battalion attached to the brigade, but I cannot recall the designated number of that battalion.
Et quelle était la fonction du...
And what was the function of the special battalion? What was its specific function? What was it in charge of?
Response. This small battalion, a special battalion, was in charge of bringing the intelligence unit concerning the enemies at the battlefront.
Vous-même, monsieur, vous étiez à la tête...
Mr. Witness, which regiment did you yourself head?
Response. I was the head of the regiment 16.
Il y avait combien de soldats au total dans la division et dans votre régiment?
Response. In the regiment, there were 3 battalions, and there were at least 300 people.
$300 personnes par bataillon ou
300 persons per battalion or 300 persons per regiment?
Response. In the regiment, there were 3 battalions, and in each battalion there were about 300 to 400 soldiers. It depends on the actual circumstance of the battlefield. Some people or some soldiers were injured or wounded during the fights. The President interrupts. Thank you, Judge Lavergne. Since it is now appropriate time for the adjournment, the court will adjourn for 20 minutes. Court officer is now instructed to assist the witness and his jury counsel during the adjournment and have them return to the courtroom when the next session resumes. Indeed, the next session will resume at 10 to 11.
សូមអញ្ជើញក្រកឈរ